Okay, friends, it's time to learn how to turn our paper plates. Hopefully you've decorated yours and colored it in. You really can't start the next step until you color it because you can't color after you weave. It just won't work. So if you've not yet colored in your plate and that's part of your grade, I want you to go ahead and stop this video and go and color and then come back when you're ready. So if you're still here, that means your plate is fully colored in. You've created a radial design. So it radiates from the inside. It builds ring after ring after ring, right? A radial design, radial symmetry means that there's lots of different places that we could draw a line of symmetry. Do you remember what a line of symmetry is? A line of symmetry is when we were to draw a line through the middle of our plate and we would fold it up and both halves would meet. In a radial symmetrical design, that means there's lots of different opportunities to draw a line of symmetry and have the two halves match. So I want you to imagine it should look like a piece of pizza, like a thing of pizza, and you want the toppings on each slice of pizza to match the other one. Otherwise, siblings might think that's unfair. That's a good thing to maybe remember as you're thinking about, is my design a radial design? So at this point, you're ready to go for the next step. We're going to turn this into a loom. Hopefully if you're using glue, you've already attached your string to the back. I'm going to show you what that looks like because it's an important step that will need some time to dry.
Let's talk about the supplies that you'll need so you have everything ready to go for this part of the assignment. Hopefully you've already glued, but if not, you'll need glue, and you'll just pause your video for a little bit to let it dry. You'll need your baggie with your 3 different colored pieces of yarn. You'll need your scissors. If you're not using glue, if you have a piece of tape at home, you can use tape as well. Okay, so the first thing that has to be done, you're going to go ahead and pick one of your colors of string. I think I'm going to use my gray. I want to make sure it's nice and kind of untangled, which it should be. It was balled up pretty gently, so it shouldn't cause you too many tangles. So just make sure it's nice and loose and ready to go. You have 2 options for attaching it to the back. I didn't have tape I could send home with everybody. If you have tape, tape is the easiest way to go. And you need 1 piece of tape, and just go ahead and tape it somewhere on the back, but it doesn't have to be all the way to the middle. If you don't have tape at home, your glue can come in handy for that. You should have a small bottle of glue from your art bag, and you're simply going to put a nice dab of glue here. You can see I did a pretty big gloppy amount. It needs to help hold this together as we get started on the loom. So it's important that it's really going to be there. You'll need to set this aside to dry. So it's a great thing to do, and I showed you in yesterday's lesson how to make sure that you put that on there and let it dry. But you can always pause your video and give it about an hour maybe and check it and just make sure it's fully dried. You can also, if you're in a rush, take a fan and point it down at this to let it dry all the way. And remember, please close the top of your glue. That way when you come back to it, it's not dried out and you don't have a clog to dig out for next time. That's all we need the glue for today. So you can set that off to the side. All right, the other option is just to use a piece of tape. I had a piece of like glittery duct tape that's going to work well to hold that there. The next thing we need are scissors. When you decorated yours, I told you to remember to leave these marks. You should have 19 marks around the rim of your plate. And you're going to use your scissors to go ahead and cut that just in the entirety of the rim. You don't want to go down. It's just the rim on each of the tally marks. So go ahead and go all the way around and cut each one of your marks here. Make sure as you're cutting, don't let that yarn get in the way. It should just be hanging out at the bottom of your plate. You don't want to cut that yarn off, then you'd have to go ahead and attach it again. Okay, now that I've cut all my slits, I'm ready to turn this into a loom. I'm going to go ahead and pull my string up to and tuck it in whatever one it's closest to on the back here, whichever one. It really doesn't matter where you start. What does matter is where you go next. Okay, we're going to come across and tuck it in. Okay, and then you need to make sure that your loom matches mine. Okay, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sticking out on the right hand side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on the left hand side. It is important that we do it this way so that we end up correct. If you go without it the same and you follow my directions, you're going to end up with one that's loose, and you're going to have to undo your loom and give it another try. So make sure you have 8 slits on the right side and 9 slits on the left side. Next, we're going to create the loom. It's important that you follow along right with me, okay? We're going to do the same process and go all the way around the plate. So where mine is at the bottom, I'm going to go over to the left slit. So you're going to go to your neighbor's house, okay? And you're going to tuck it in and bring it forward. Then I'm going to go visit across the street and tuck it in. Now go behind that neighbor and come back across. Okay, you don't want to pull, you want it to be tight. It shouldn't be loose, but don't pull it too tight that it starts to bend your plate entirely. It'll bend a little bit because it should be nice and firm, but not too much. So it's the same process over and over again. We're going to tuck it behind. We're going to bring it forward. We're going to take it across. Tuck it in, tuck it behind, bring it forward, take it across. Tuck it in, bring it behind, pull it forward, take it across. We will repeat this step the entire way till we finish creating the loom. It should start looking like a bicycle tire. Okay, if you did it correctly to follow with me, you should have one slit here that's ready. You should have no open slits on the other side. Okay, here's the part that might be a little bit tricky. It's time to start to weave. Okay, so I'm going to take this across and I'll start to weave. Weaving is simply a process of going over, under, over, under, over, under. And we're going to do that all the way around and keep going until we get low on our string. You should have a little bit of string left to get started, and then what we'll do is we'll tie the next color on and we'll keep going. So go ahead and watch the process. I'm going to go ahead and push my little ball straight across from where I am, and I'm going to bring it under the one that's across from me. From there, I'm just going to go over this string, under this string, over, under, over, under, over, under. So it's in every other one. Over, under, over, under. As I'm going, I'm starting to pull this string a little bit tighter. And I'm going to start to see it building around the center of my weaving. So it's easier to weave it around the outside of the plate where you have plenty of spaces between your loom, and then just pull it tighter as you go. If you're struggling, you can stop and undo and try again. But it's simply an over-under process as we pull it through. Do you see how it's starting to weave? You can see that clear over-under. Once you get it going around once or twice, then you can really even see where you're at if you lose track. I can see that I just went over or under this one, so I go over this one. So you're going to end up using all of the 3 yarn pieces that I gave you. And when you do that, it's going to create and fill a weaving about half as wide as your plate. So some of my beautiful design is getting covered up by my weaving, but only a little bit, because my weaving is off the bottom of the plate and at the level of the rim of my plate. I can still peek behind and see the pattern that I created there in that center part of my radial design. But the outer rim is really where I focused a lot of my detail, and it's going to shine and kind of create this beautiful frame for my piece. I'm going to speed up a little bit here so I can show you how to tie off an end and start your next color. Okay, you can see I left a nice long tail. I want to leave myself room to tie in my next color before I keep weaving. If I make it too small, then I might go back and have some problems tying it on. Okay, so you're going to tie your 2 pieces together. What you're going to do is you're going to put them together. You're going to create a loop, and you're going to tug the little tails, push them up through the hole, and then push your knot as much to the end of that as you can. You don't want too much hanging out there. I might even trim it off a little bit. I want to make sure before I trim, though, that my knot is pulled nice and tight. Otherwise, when I start to weave, I could pull my thread or my 2 pieces of yarn apart. And as I weave, I'm going to make sure that once I get to the part where this part is weaving, I'm going to tuck my knot underneath on the underside of my weaving so it doesn't pop out and stick out the top. So now I'm going to take this next piece here and I have my next ball, and I'm going to keep going. So at this point, you've probably noticed this is not an art project that you're going to finish in one sitting. You're going to want to take your time and find a couple different opportunities to sit and work on this, right? But you have all week to complete art assignments. So you do have plenty of time to work. I'm going to pull this through. So this is not an art assignment that you should be waiting until Friday at 2:55 to start. We use all of our time for the full week to create our art projects. I want to see that reflected in every single art assignment that you are completing this year in art class. So you can see I didn't have to even tuck it down. It's already tucked in there. And now I've officially switched over to my red. From there, I'm going to repeat this process. I'm going to go until I run out of my reddish maroon thread. When I get towards the end and my tail is sticking out the bottom there, I'm going to tie in my last color. It looks like I have a fuchsia pink color to finish my piece. I'm going to keep pulling it snug as I go. I want it to look nice and neat. So you can see too, you know, creating a circle weaving, it didn't quite line up with the middle of my piece. It's still going to look pretty awesome. I'm so excited. I'm going to keep working on this and let you focus on yours. If you're having a hard time, my recommendation is to stop and unweave a little bit until you get back to the snag. Don't go too far. If it looks like it's a mistake, undo it and try again. I'm going to be teaching this lesson of how to get started on this part on Tuesday and Wednesday in your classes this week to help you. I'll also be available for the help sessions that you have each week. So log in and ask your questions and let me help. But I don't want you to wait too long before asking for help. If you show up on Friday with a blank plate, there's going to be, or end of the day on Thursday with a blank plate, there's going to be very little I can do to help you get caught up in time. And you'll find yourself needing to do some work over the weekend to finish it. Once you get started too, I like to kind of sit around and give myself something to do when I'm like hanging out and watching a TV show in the afternoon or evening. Weaving is something that once you get in the rhythm of it, you can just sit and do as you're working. I can't wait to see your finished pieces, and I'll show you mine in just a little bit.